Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 13th business meeting of the Arkansas State Highway Commission. I'm Alec Farmer, Chairman of the Commission. This is our first meeting of 2024. And so before we get started, I'd like the record to reflect that we have all the commissioners here and have a quorum for the purpose of conducting business. A few reminders before we get started. Anyone presenting or speaking today, please make sure you turn on your microphone and speak directly as possible in the microphone. So since we're live streaming, the people at home can hear you. Also, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue usage of electronic signatures for the signing of the minute orders as we've done in the past.
So move.
Got a motion? Do I hear a second? Motion second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we'll continue to do that then. All right, it looks like now we can move on to the minute orders. So that's the next order of business is the approval, the minutes, I'm sorry, misread that. The minutes from the December meeting. So everybody's had a chance to look at those. Any additions or corrections? If not, entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Motion, and do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to the minute orders. All right. Again, if you have any questions, just ask to be recognized, and we'll do that. And with that, we'll turn it over to our Public Information Officer, Dave Parker, to read the minute orders.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minute order 1 simply calls for the approval of our purchasing committee since mid-December. Minute order 2, authorization to process payment for the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials membership dues for 2024.
You didn't look up. Let me ask a question about number 1, just for my own knowledge, okay, being new. In that's for aggregate and stuff like that. Is this purchase like for once a year, or is this a quarter, or is this as used? I mean, how do we handle that? Is that a yearly purchase?
Most of it's surrounding our pavement improvement program with the district, so they purchase that, put it out during the summer. So historically, it's been yearly. They can go back and do more, but usually it's just a one-time annual purchase.
Okay, so it's an annual purchase?
Yes, sir.
Also, I noticed there's a personnel radiation.
Dosimeter.
Yeah.
So we use nuclear devices to check the density.
Okay, that's
in
for
our
that,
testing,
for the
and
density.
that monitors how much radiation our employees are getting to be sure they're not getting overdoses.
Okay, okay, that's all I had there. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to minute order 3, approval to make payment for the Arkansas Good Roads Foundation annual contribution for 2024.
Okay. Dave, I'm going to hold up on that. And I think we have Joe Quinn here with the Arkansas Good Roads Foundation that'd like to make a brief comment. Joe?
There it is. Good morning. Thank you very much for the financial support, but more importantly than that, to the director's executive staff and to the commissioners, thank you for being great to work with. I think the relationship between Good Roads and this department and the Highway Commission has been seamless in recent years, and we're very proud of that. I don't think we've ever been in a better place in terms of telling the story. There's funding out there as a result of issue 1 and as the increase in federal money that has, I think, changed life for all of us, and my members are very excited about the coming year. I'm a big believer, if you give us funding, I would like to tell you what we're doing with it. Not all organizations think like that. We do. We're rather frugal and we're rather precise about how we spend money. We will continue to work aggressively with you to tell the worker safety story. I think we're making progress on that. I think the message has resonated, and we will continue that. We are driving 2 million digital impressions a year on our Facebook page, telling the story in a conversational way that Arkansans can understand. We will continue to do that. We do 4 issues of our magazine a year, and we try to be very aligned and very intentional about the stories we put in the magazine, ranging from working together. The Hardy Bridge was a great example of a specific project changing life in a region. We will continue to remind people why Mac Blackwell matters and workforce development issues that are very important to our members right now. We will continue to tell the story, I think, seamlessly on the issues that matter to RDOT. We will assist with the fundraising and the planning for the monument. That is a project that I think we all think of from the heart. But the director has been very intentional, reminding us the work on that will not be done by state employees on state time. That will be done before and after work, and I think the position Good Roads is in, we can help with that. We can help as a type of fiduciary agent to intake fundraising and to help with fundraising and to assist the director and the commissioners on making that a little bit easier. That's a project that is important to all of us. We're hoping to do a special issue of our magazine, kind of for SASHTO and showing what RDOT has done in recent years. We will continue to emphasize and explain why Mac Blackwell matters more than ever and why that's simply important, but also for many people what it is. And then the regional meeting that we've done the past 2 years in Fort Smith and then Jonesboro, which I think was a great meeting and a chance for highway commissioners to meet their neighbors and friends and business leaders on their home turf and talk about what we are doing. We're going to go to Mountain Home this year, talk a little bit about the development around 412, and really talk about that strip across the top of the state that touches both the chairman's district and Commissioner Taldo's district. So we're going to go to Mountain Home. Every year that meeting gets a little bigger and we get a little better at doing it, but I think it's a great way to pull together people for the policy discussion. So thank you for being great to work with. That's the most simple way I can put it. This is fun, and I think all of us are going to have a great 2024. Thank you for the funding.
Thank you, Joe, and I just want to echo what you said. I don't know of a time that we've had better cooperation and partnership with Good Roads and the construction community at large than we've experienced here recently, and a large part of that goes to your work, so thank you. Okay. Mr. Parker, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Moving on to minute order 4. Approval to renew our agreement with the Division of Services for the Blind to provide vending machine services at all interstate welcome centers, tourist information centers, and rest areas. Minute order 5, authorization to renew a 3-year agreement with the CTTP, the Center for Training Transportation Professionals, for the purpose of continued training and certification courses as agreed upon by the department and the CTTP.
Who's eligible to go to those for training?
Our employees as well as contractor employees.
Okay.
It's open.
So it's open to really everybody.
They
And
need
it's-
to be certified.
Yeah, and it's a pay as you.
Yeah, they pay to attend the class. There's
Okay.
a tuition.
What's the cost to RDOT?
The cost to RDOT, what is it, about $350,000? We pay each year to help administer that program, and then the attendees, the students that go and get certified, they pay a nominal
Right.
fee to attend. So it's funded by both the people that use it or want the certification, and we also use some of our state planning and research money to administer that program.
How many people use it a year?
Um,
Guesstimate.
500? Is that right?
Okay. No, it's a lot.
That's right. I pulled that out of the air.
Okay, minute order 6, moving on. This minute order calls for the approval to request proposals and select consulting firms to perform on-call design services and to enter into agreements or contracts as needed for calendar years 2025 through 2028, with an option to extend into 2029. Minute Order 7. This minute order gives authorization to request proposals and select consulting firms to perform on-call transportation-related asset data collection services and enter necessary contracts as identified for calendar years 2024 through 2026, with an option to extend through 2028. Minute Order 8. This minute order takes us to Conway County. It calls for the approval to commit $2 million from the state fiscal year 2019 state surplus funds for the purpose of making infrastructure improvements to Highway 113 near Apollo. Minute Order 9. Authorization to make improvements to railroad crossings across the state as funds become available.
Another question. Is this grant always at the discretion of Arkansas Economic Development?
Oh, the previous minute order, yes, for that funding for Apollo. That money is set aside for economic development activities, and we make sure the governor and the Economic Development Commission are in full support before we bring it before you. It's a commission.
Okay, but economic development's the one that I guess cities or whatever apply for that, and then they
Yes.
select.
They work together, the cities. This happened to be not only the industry, which we're helping to relocate a highway, but also the city of Conway and the counties surrounding to retain those jobs at that facility.
Lori, just the history of this. This was the request of the former Governor Hutchinson, all right, to set up some surplus funds we had.
Oh, yes.
It was a one-time money of $15 million. And the process, since the highway department's not in the process or not in the business of economic development, we felt like it needed input from the governor's office and the Economic Development Commission to release this money. And so that fund is now down below $3 million, $2 million, isn't it?
Right.
But it was just one-time money, and so if any replenishment of that fund would have to take new action by the commission.
It's been very popular, and we've done a lot of good things with that money. It started out $15 million, and we've used it on different projects, all very good projects, a lot of support.
How much is left?
I think around $2 million is left. Yeah.
Dave, sometimes the line is blurred between what's AEDC project and what is RDOT project. Maybe it's something that we need to be doing in the near future, and we combine it with AEDC project, or so a lot of times the AEDC projects involve highways, and it just worked out really well. We've had several that we've put a little bit of money into because it seemed like the fair thing to do.
Minute Order 10. This minute order has to do with a safety improvement project. It calls for the authorization to proceed with the plans and the construction of safety projects at unsignalized intersections. Minute Order 11. This minute order calls for the creation of a contract and to enter into agreement with Johnson Controls International to perform energy-saving projects at our Materials Division and 9 district headquarters.
I've got another question. I skipped some of them. This is paid back through the savings over 18 years. Does that really, I mean, you got to pay up front. So I guess from my business, if you put that in something bearing interest, I don't know what the payback would be. The other thing is, I don't say what happens in my business, but we buy equipment, and we want it paid for in about 2 to 3 years. I had all my lights redone, and we had a 3-year on the same thing basically, but it was a 3-year payout. So I'm just curious about the 18 years.
Well, this company comes in and does an audit of your whole system and finds ways that you can save money by becoming more energy efficient. And we're going to pay for this. They identified $7.5 million worth of improvements to heating and air and all that. We're going to pay for it over 3 budget cycles, so we'll have it completely paid for in 3 years. The savings that they're projecting out over time with those energy savings, they bring those into today's dollars, and they assure us it's a responsible thing to do to make sure that we're energy efficient. We're not spending more on energy than we need to, but on the other side of it, it is a cost savings over time because we are becoming more energy efficient. But to address we're not paying this off over 18 years. The savings is just, they say within 18 years we'll recoup that $7.5 million.
They'll say that, recoup it, but
Yeah.
it's a lot longer than.
18 years is a long time to recoup your investment.
Yeah. To me,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed, I'm just questioning.
Yeah, right.
And Lori, some of these maintenance headquarters, they're in really bad shape.
Yes.
And so some of these improvements, I think, would be under the umbrella of energy, but they're actually
Needed.
more functional improvements. Like they're saying it would be more energy efficient to have a working HVAC system. Well, it's also a lot better for our employees to have a working HVAC system. So they're larger improvements. They're not small efficiencies like light bulbs. Sometimes they're bringing our maintenance divisions up to a level that's proper for our employees.
And that's a good point. A lot of these improvements were going to happen anyway. We're going to have to do it, replace, HV systems or whatever. That was coming. We're doing it in a more systematic way. So that $7.5 million, a good portion of that we would have already paid that out over the next 18 years anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Minute Order 12, this final minute order calls for authorization for the Chief Engineer of Operations to place Johnson Brothers Corporation, a Southland company, in default on job CA 0601 and to enter into negotiations, contracts, and actions to progress job CA 0601 to completion.
Okay, I was going to stop you there, Dave. Unless the commissioner has an objection, we're going to move item 12 regarding the Johnson Brothers Corporation notice to default job CA 0601 minute order to other business later in the meeting. I believe Director Tudor and her staff prepared a brief presentation regarding this matter. So hearing no objection, we'll move item 12 to other business at the end of today's agenda. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the minute orders. I guess next up is the financial officer, Patrick Patton. You come forward and present the highway financial report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll start, we're looking at December numbers. The January, we're not ready by the time of this meeting. First, we'll look at the budgeted versus actual expenses based on the organizational chart categories. If you look across, it's pretty flat. Everything seems to be in line. We're about 10 million under budget versus actual for so far this year. If you look at the next slide, it kind of slices it out a little different, budgeted versus actual and operational category. The maintenance, operations, admin, and budgeted construction, once again, we're about 10 million under, or 10.8% under our budget. If you now turn to the actual revenue, December over December, everything's positive until you get to other, and it's flat. Once again, natural gas severance tax is way below where we were last year at this time, by about $30 million. So overall, our total revenues are 24 million under what they were last year. If you look at actual versus budgeted, same kind of story going across. You'll see where motor fuel is flat, registrations are flat. Amendment 101 is down about 13% or 13 million. That's due to timing. Natural gas severance, when we did the budget, we kind of took a haircut on it of budgeting only 75% of what we had received the previous year, but still it's underperforming by about $22 million. So overall, we're 28 million under budget. If you look at Act 416, actual revenue through December, it's flat, 600,000 over last year at this time. If you look at actual versus budgeted, it's the exact same. It's 600,000 over actual or over budget. If you look at consumption, consumption has turned pretty strong. 22.2 million gallons above last year at this time for gasoline. Overall, 27.9 million or 2.4%. If you take the rolling 12 months, you see pretty much the same thing. Overall, 2.31% versus the previous 12 months. Any questions? Thank
Looks
you.
like we don't have any questions. Thank you, Patrick. And now for the remainder of the meeting, I'll let Director Tudor run things. So it's
Thank you.
all yours.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Kevin Thornton, our Chief of Administration, to give us a federal and state legislative update.
Thank you, Director Tudor. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, today I'd like to start out with an update on our current infrastructure law, which is referred to as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. This law was enacted in November of 2021. It authorized approximately $1.2 trillion for transportation spending over 5 years. And this included federal fiscal years 2022 through 2026. Now, while 2026 may seem like a long way off, now is the time to begin working on how the next infrastructure law will be structured and funded. Since this law impacts all 50 states, our national organization, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, or AASHTO, will be taking the lead in organizing this effort. AASHTO has developed a roadmap that will be used to establish our reauthorization policy priorities that we feel will best influence how Congress and the administration should shape future transportation funding to the states. AASHTO will rely on their committees, as they have many in place for many years, and are made up of transportation officials from each of the 50 state DOTs. The goal is to be complete with this effort by September 2025, which will provide us with a full year to discuss our ideas for future policies with members of Congress and the administration. This will require a significant effort from AASHTO and all of the DOTs. We're looking forward to providing this information to Washington as we continue to make improvements to the transportation system here in Arkansas. Now I'd like to turn your attention to funding for this year, 2024. Congress and the President continue to work toward a full year's appropriation or spending bill. However, they have not been able to reach an agreement. They have, thankfully, been able to agree on a third continuing resolution, or CR, for federal year 2024. This CR will expire on March the 1st. By the way, March will be the halfway point for this federal year. There continues to be a disagreement in the House regarding the spending levels for 2024, and that seems to be the holdup for passage of a full year spending or appropriations bill. We will, of course, continue to watch developments in Washington, and we hope to report back to you soon on an agreement for the entire year. Director Tudor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kevin. Are there any questions? Okay. Next, I'd like to ask Crystal Woods, our Assistant Chief of Administration, to come up and give you a report on our efficiency review implementation.
Good morning. I'd like to give you a brief update on our continuing efforts to implement the 13 recommendations from the Arkansas Legislative Council efficiency study of the department. I'll be sharing the most noteworthy examples of the progress we reported to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee for the months of December 2023 and January 2024. Recommendation number 1 under the organizational structure category said we should finalize KPIs and implement performance management. We are nearing final development of our operational effectiveness KPIs and performance target for each one. We've also developed a draft dashboard which will help us monitor how we're meeting each performance measure. Recommendation number 3 under the portfolio planning category said we should publish the status of construction projects and maintenance activities. Our consultant, Garver, is in the process of developing the initial version of the website. Once approved by RDOT management, it will be published for public and stakeholder comments. Recommendation number 4, which is also under the portfolio planning category, said we should implement a platform that tracks all stakeholder inquiries to resolution. As previously reported, Ask RDOT was made available to the public in October 2023. We're now in the process of developing a reporting structure that can be used to summarize information regarding our customer inquiries. Since we began using Ask RDOT in February 2023, so a year ago, we have received 8,768 inquiries from the public. That's an average of 730 inquiries per month. Recommendation number 12 and number 13 under the people capabilities category said we should ensure staff can develop in their careers at RDOT and improve our staff's capabilities to align with current and future organizational needs. Our workforce strategic plan has recently been updated to align with the new RDOT strategic plan. Our career path promotion program documents have been developed for all of our most common career path promotions and are available to employees and supervisors. Online learning paths have been published to allow employees who consider themselves future leaders to voluntarily enroll in courses to begin building the skills they will need for future leadership roles. And our cross-training and on-the-job training request form has been developed and is being tested. We expect to make it available to employees soon. It was reported at the last commission meeting that the Inspector General's Office of Internal Audit had submitted its annual report to HCRAS. As you know, HCRAS met on November 13th, and one of the items on the agenda was to review that report. As we previously discussed, the report was positive and recognized RDOT for making substantial progress in implementing the Guidehouse recommendations and for having strong internal controls in place. Therefore, the state auditors asked the subcommittee to consider eliminating the consulting component of their engagement with RDOT as we go forward. However, the subcommittee decided to table that recommendation in November until they had more members present. So on January 24th, the revised engagement letter was reviewed by HCRAS, and it was approved by the Arkansas Legislative Council on January 26th. This concludes my report.
Any questions?
Crystal, I'm going to just ask you to clarify a little bit on 1, 3, and 4, just to break down. So the platform Ask RDOT is for the public, and then the and then 3, that is for internal use and also the contractors. And then, or 4 is 3 internal and 4 is for contractors and internal, and then the last one is for the public, right? Do I have that mixed?
So-
Clear as mud, right?
Can we back the slide, can we back the
Yeah.
slides back up and get those back up there?
Yeah, could you just,
There we go.
could you just tell me which ones are for who the target audience is for each one?
Yes.
That's great.
Thank you.
Number 1 is our key performance indicators and performance measurement for internal RDOT staff to determine whether we're achieving our performance measures and to monitor, how well we're meeting those. Number 3 is to publish the status of our construction projects and maintenance activities to the public with a new website that Garver is helping us develop. Number 4 is Ask RDOT, which is for inquiries from the public. So it's a separate program for customer inquiries.
So the difference is that 3 is job specific and 4 is for general inquiries.
Yes.
Okay. But they really will feed into each other and work together, correct? Because Ask RDOT, would that trip an inquiry that would take them over to a page that would be specific to a project?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, they're integrated. Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question here. Chris, if my memory serves me correctly, there were 13 recommendations.
Yes, sir.
How many of those can we check the box on? And
Oh. Let me think. Well, each one had several rules, what we call rules
Right.
under them, and there are 80-something rules.
Oh, wow, okay,
And many of which have been marked complete.
okay.
But the overall 13 recommendations, most of those still have 1 or 2
They have
rules
components
left
of it,
to complete.
But a majority of the tasks within those 13 recommendations have been met.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anything else? All right, now, thank you, Crystal. Thank you. Kelly Wiley, our Assistant Chief Engineer, Program Delivery, will give us an update on projects.
Thank you, Director Tudor. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Since your last meeting in December, we have held a successful bid letting in January. This letting awarded 68 projects, amounting to over $330 million, and included the long-awaited Northwest Arkansas National Airport Access Road. Continuing our update of the Department's 2024 Pavement Preservation Program, over the last 2 lettings, the Department has awarded 47 projects, totaling more than $260 million, that will provide improvements to over 388 miles of state highways. As I mentioned, in January, we awarded 68 projects for $330 million. These projects included 30 highway, 13 county projects, and 25 city projects. There were 125 bids submitted from 38 different contractors. Of those total 73 projects, bids were received on all but 2, and all bids were rejected on 3 projects. The largest job awarded in the January letting is this project that will construct the new connector road between the recently awarded Springdale Bypass and the Northwest Arkansas National Airport, or XNA, in Benton County. This project will construct approximately 4 miles of 4-lane divided highway and will tie into the new interchange that is being constructed as a part of Job 012326, shown on the map. There will be coordination throughout the construction of these projects to ensure that neither project negatively impacts the other. Once both projects are completed, it will create a more efficient connection between Western Highway 412 and Interstate 49, as well as a direct connection to the airport for travelers throughout the region. With the number of days bid by the contractor, this project should be completed by early 2027. Moving to the other side of Springdale, this project will resurface Highway 45 between Highway 265 and Highway 412 business in Madison and Washington counties. This work should be completed this summer. Next up, we head south to Sebastian and Crawford counties, where this $22 million project will resurface Interstate 540 from Highway 22 in Fort Smith to Interstate 40 in Van Buren. This project will also repair joints on 6 bridges. This work will be completed mostly at night to reduce traffic impacts. With the 242 calendar days bid on this project, this work should be completed by the end of the year. Moving slightly to the east, this next project will resurface Highway 255 in Sebastian County. This work should also be completed this summer. Making sure I'm on the right page here. Moving along Interstate 40 brings us to our next project, which will resurface Highways 9 and 64 in Conway and Perry counties. Moving into central Arkansas, this project will resurface Interstate 30 between Interstates 530 and 630, as well as a portion of Interstate 630. This project will also include work on several ramps along the corridor. This work will mostly be completed at night to reduce traffic impacts. With the time bid by the contractor, this work should be completed by the end of the year. Staying in central Arkansas, this project will resurface Highway 38 between Highway 367 and Highway 13 in Lone Oak and Prairie counties. This work should also be completed this summer. Further east in Prairie County, this project will resurface Highway 11 between Highway 38 and the White County line. Once again, this work should be completed this summer. As we start to journey south, this next project will resurface Highway 7 spur between Highway 70 Business and Highway 7 in Hot Springs. The department partnered with Garland County for the county to accept ownership of this piece of highway upon completion of the Hot Springs bypass, which opened late last year. This work should be completed this summer. This project will rehabilitate Interstate 30 between the Arkansas Welcome Center just outside of Texarkana and Highway 67 near Fulton. This project will also rehabilitate 4 bridges along the corridor. This work will be completed mostly at night to reduce traffic impacts. With the time bid by the contractor, this work should be completed by early 2025. And the last project that I will discuss takes us to the southeast corner of the state, which will resurface Highways 8 and 82 between Crossett and Fountain Hill. This project will tie into a pavement preservation project that was completed just a few years ago. This work should be completed by the end of this year. Looking ahead, there are currently 68 projects totaling approximately $200 million in our February 28th letting. This concludes my report, Director Tudor.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions? A lot of good work going on.
I'm the question person today, I guess. Kelly, this is the time of year that the public pays a lot of attention to pavement preservation. Will you speak a little bit toward our overall funding of pavement preservation versus new projects, just for public information?
Sure. So the commission has elected to set aside approximately $300 million to preserve our pavements, and an additional $110 million that we dedicate towards bridge, either replacement or rehabilitation. So about $400 million that you all have dedicated to pavement preservation and bridge preservation.
Anything else? Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Kelly. Next, we have Rex Vines, our Chief Engineer of Operations, to give you an update on maintenance activities.
Good morning.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. Thank you, Director, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I really appreciate the opportunity to brag on our maintenance employees and having this opportunity to do that. You know, one of the most visible and most important functions of maintenance during this time of year is maintaining our roads during safe roads during snow and ice events that we have periodically. As you all are very aware, we recently experienced a round of cold weather, bitter cold weather, accompanied by a winter storm that occurred the week of January 14th, which affected the entire state. The map on the left shows our snow accumulation from that event, and you can see it's statewide. What the map does not show is 1 to 3, to 3 inches of sleet that fell on the southern part of the state in advance of the snow, which made it much more difficult to clear the roads. The picture on the right indicates how this event impacted our roadways. As you can see, that's a picture from I-Drive, Arkansas. So during this event, RDOT crews worked around the clock for several days, pre-treating ahead of the storm, then clearing our highways after the event, during and after the event. Some brief statistics just to show the significance of this event is we logged 71,455 staff hours in preparation and fighting this. We put out 24,000 tons of salt, 2 million gallons of brine, and utilized over 600 plows and spreaders during and after this event. I would like to speak to one specific practice we use to maintain our roads as safe as possible, and that's the application of brine as a pre-treatment. Salt brine is produced by our own personnel by simply mixing salt and water to a specific ratio and admittedly some to taste. Proactively applying brine before a winter storm helps prevent the snow and ice from bonding to the road and makes plowing much more productive. It doesn't prevent the snow from accumulating, but it does minimize the bonding to the roadway, thus making it easier to clear. This picture is an example of how we put the brine out. It's applied using water tankers at a rate of about 30 to 50 gallons per lane mile. And this pre-treatment can reduce the amount of salt we have to use by as much as 25%. So it's a real cost savings in not only in salt but in labor and man hours that we're not out there. Okay, next slide, please. The photo on the left is a recently completed salt house in District 5 in Batesville that holds approximately 4,300 tons of salt, excuse me. Our District 5 district engineer just passed out. I'm sure you've noticed here that we filled it with purple salt. This is an ongoing effort by the department to demonstrate a bipartisan solution to snow and ice. So everybody's awake. I'm glad to hear everybody's awake. This particular additive is called Snow Slicer, and it's from a Central Salt in Kansas, similar to beet juice and other additives. This additive helps by lowering the freezing temperature of water to minus 18 degrees, whereas salt usually only works to about 20 degrees above zero. And the additive and colors vary by supplier, the supplier providing the salt. The photo on the right is a new salt storage facility here in District 6, here in Little Rock, that was recently completed and holds approximately 4,000 tons. So that gives the statewide capacity right now at approximately 70,000 tons of salt across the state. Now, if you were driving around the state shortly after this storm, you may have noticed something. The director has forbidden the use of this word, So it is with great risk of me getting my mouth washed out with soap at the end of this meeting. I'll say it, potholes. The hard freeze and snow and sleet, followed by the heavy rainfalls, was a perfect storm for creating potholes, and particularly in our high traffic areas, as I'm sure you saw on social media and many newscasts. After the storm subsided, our maintenance crews have been very busy across the state repairing potholes. During the period of January 21st to February 10th, our crews have put out 2,577 tons of asphalt, 5,892 bags of pre-mixed asphalt for patching materials at a total cost of $382,000. We have exceeded 33,000 staff hours in the period of this time just patching potholes. So it's been a significant event following this storm. You know, I'm very proud of the effort that our crews put out, not only clearing the road to snow and ice, but then going out and patching afterwards. This is very bad conditions, and it's very hard work. And I'm proud of the work they do, as I know you are. You've expressed to me personally, and so I very much appreciate their efforts. And that concludes my report, Director.
Rex?
Yes, sir.
I just want to echo that. I've heard nothing but praise about the department during the inclement weather, the winter weather we had. The roads did a fabulous job. Unfortunately, the after effect of that was the potholes. And I also want to commend our Public Information Office. They really got the word out there explaining to the public what was creating the potholes, and it was good, I thought, a good public information effort to keep everybody abreast of what was going on. So kudos to you in operations, and kudos to Dave and Public Information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rex, does freezing and snow and ice affect concrete streets, highways?
Yes, sir. If the water infiltrates the concrete, and it does, and then you get a hard freeze, when the water expands, it will break out. That's why you see a lot of breakout in concrete as well. Yes, sir.
So how do you patch that?
We usually use asphalt to patch it initially, and then come back later and do concrete patches. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Next, we have Steve Frisbee, our Assistant Chief Engineer of Maintenance, to give you an update on the 2024 total solar eclipse.
All right, thank you, Director, and good morning, Commission. We are 55 short days away from the great North American eclipse. So although we've been dealing with a little winter weather lately, as Mr. Vine shared, we have not lost focus on this eclipse, and our planning is full steam ahead. So I want to play a little short animation here. There should be a play button, and show you this animation of the shadow of the eclipse crossing our state at 1,680 miles per hour. So as a reminder, the total time of darkness at any given point for the eclipse will vary from 2 to 4 minutes, depending on how close to the center of the shadow you are. The total duration of the eclipse through the state of Arkansas will just last 14 minutes. It begins at 1:46 p.m., entering the state around DeQueen, and it'll exit the state north of Pocahontas about 2 p.m. I want to briefly share that our published traffic management plan that I've shared with you in previous meetings, it has received some positive attention from the Federal Highway Administration and other DOTs. I've recently been asked to go and speak at an upcoming multi-state solar eclipse peer exchange sponsored by the Federal Highway Administration. I'll be presenting on how RDOT developed our traffic management plan, including our strategies and our collaboration with other state agencies. I'll be traveling to St. Louis, Missouri on March 6th for this peer exchange, which will also focus on lessons learned from the 2017 solar eclipse, and also hear how each of our peer states are preparing for this upcoming event. There's about 15 states invited to this, so I'm looking forward as our final planning takes place to really hear from other states and be able to share our planning efforts. So again, although the traffic management plan has been developed and published, our internal planning efforts do continue at the district and local level. Our plans include pre-positioning staff and equipment at key locations across the state. So for example, we are going to be positioning 35 of our utility terrain vehicles, or UTVs, along with 13 of our lane blades for quick response. We're relocating equipment, pickup trucks, message boards from parts of the state such as southeast Arkansas that are not going to experience much. We're going to relocate some of that equipment to these high priority areas. In addition to the 360 permanent traffic cameras that you're aware of on iDrive, we're also deploying some portable traffic cameras and placing them at strategic locations with expected eclipse-related congestion that aren't picked up currently on our permanent cameras. We're going to pre-position a fleet of drones and drone pilots that will be ready to launch and provide live video feed for our traffic management center for any of these problem areas that arise across the state. We're coordinating strategic locations for our highway police officers to patrol as we partner with state police and local and city law enforcement. And we're preparing our rest areas and welcome centers for high volumes of visitors, of course, and adding support staff trained in first aid. And lastly, what I'll share today is our ITS section. As you've seen, we've got 60 of the permanent dynamic message boards across our interstate system, and we'll be utilizing these along with some temporary portable message boards for messages leading up to the eclipse, and be ready to display important real-time travel and emergency information as needed during the eclipse. At this time, I'd like to ask Dave Parker to come up and share a little bit about the latest on RDOT's communication plan for the eclipse. Dave?
Good morning. As Steve and the traffic management folks were building the TMP, the traffic management plan, we, the communications team, had to think how to best get this out to the public, to the media, as well as internally. And really, you'd be surprised that even though we've been planning on this for 2.5 years now, we've been discussing the eclipse for 2.5 years, a good deal of the public just months ago had no idea what was coming, or certainly didn't have a lot of the details. So we approached it like a political campaign. We knew we had a lot of information. We had to get the word out. Didn't want to overwhelm them with too much information early, because then it kind of becomes that white noise and no one pays attention. So we had to pick our points of when the traffic management plan came out. Certainly that was a big moment to publicize that, to get it out. 100-day mark and so on, 50-day, and in the final 30 days, you're going to see a lot but through social media, television interviews, radio, newspaper, more and more about the eclipse and what RDOT is doing. Certainly we haven't been working alone. We've been meeting weekly with a handful of state agencies, ADAM, the governor's office, Arkansas State Police, just to name a few, all communicating as to what our plans are to make sure we're working together and make sure we're kind of progressing at the same pace. Certainly since last fall, I've done numerous television interviews, radio, newspaper, social media, just to kind of keep it going. Like anything, everyone got excited at first, and then it kind of died down, and then we had winter, and now we're through that. And now I think since we're at the 55-day mark, it's starting to kind of ramp up a little bit. Later this week, actually Thursday, the communications team, as an effort to get the word out, we are having our first road show. We're going to be in Texarkana, which is in a direct path of the full eclipse. The 15th, we'll be meeting with the Texarkana Chamber of Commerce to meet with them, their city leaders, just to kind of face-to-face, one-on-one, this is what RDOT's doing to manage this, to prepare for this, and as the director has often said, to manage expectations on that day. We also have a meeting planned on Tuesday in Southwest Arkansas, similar in fashion in that we will have what RDOT is doing. We'll be there to answer questions. This is the communications team which is leading this. Just again, all in the name of awareness. And we are also looking at scheduling 3 or 4 more of these meetings in March, and certainly maybe 1 or 2 early April as we get down to that April 8th day. Also this Thursday, the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management is holding a tabletop exercise out at Camp Robinson. They are leading that. We certainly, RDOT, will have representatives there to go over, kind of a mock drill. What happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? Because in the end, no one knows what's going to happen until that day comes and we see the visibility and the influx of tourists. And then finally, we are planning on Monday, March 4th, working with the governor's office, working with a handful of state agencies. We will hold a news conference here that we will facilitate, where all the state agencies will be going around 4 to 5 minute presentations to update the public, to update the media as to what we're all doing, and certainly to answer any questions. So it's starting to kind of build. As I always like to say, we're kind of in that third quarter and fourth quarter we'll really be ready. So thank you.
And just in context, we're expecting 1.5 million visitors. And so that's, for a state that has 3 million in population, that's a significant number of visitors, and we just want to be as prepared as possible.
I was curious. Obviously, it's on a Monday, and so the previous weekend you'll have people flowing in at different times, different days. But after the event's over, at 2 o'clock on Monday, you're going to have 1 million or so people trying to exit the state or go home. Is that? I mean, we're looking at that. That's in the middle of the school day letting out. How long do we anticipate the congestion to last on that Monday, after the eclipse is over?
Sure, and you're exactly right. So that's from the 2017 eclipse, the lessons learned from other DOTs is leading in, beginning Friday through the weekend. The visitors are filter into the state, and so you're going to see heavy traffic, but hopefully it'll be spread out. They're going to stay. Lessons learned from that eclipse also were that at least 80% of those travelers after the event, they were headed home. And so that's going to be the challenge. Now, things that partnering with state parks and all the cities is trying to get them to stay a while, and that's one of our strategies in the TMP is stay a while. So they're going to have these festivals and try to get people to spread out. Part of managing the expectations is letting them know, just like after a Super Bowl, but times the entire state, you may not want to get on the road right after this eclipse. And so by managing that and asking them to stay, we hope to minimize it. To more specifically answer your question, what are we expecting? Again, it's very difficult. We did do the travel demand model, which is in our traffic management plan, to identify the choke points, and you have to make a lot of estimates. And I've said it this way, it's like a snow forecast. You just cannot predict exactly where. You know it's going to snow, you know it could be heavy, you just can't say for sure. And so my best estimate, educated guess would be for at least the afternoon of Monday into overnight, and we sure hope it will subside. Heavier than usual traffic Tuesday, but hopefully it will not be too bad. But we are preparing for the worst. We're preparing for extreme traffic Monday night into Tuesday at least, and we'll be ready until it ends.
The public schools, like I said, that time of going home, typically letting out about 3 o'clock or so, what's been the communication with the? I mean, I know each school district is its own island, so getting some kind of overlap or continuity is tough. But have we heard generally what the schools are planning on doing?
Quite a few schools we've already heard have decided to close. Others are kind of waiting, and that was, again, another strategy in our plan. That's why we published it, to share this with public officials and schools, and we specifically say that is, hey, here's what's going to happen. And so we recommend school closings, but we're really not in the place to tell them what they should do. But there are quite a few schools around the state in the area that have already decided to close school.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, y'all had mentioned in previous information sessions that other states who'd experienced totality in previous eclipses had a problem with motorists pulling over on the side of the highway, which just shocks me. Are y'all including that in your public information campaign, or are you just going to have law enforcement handle that aspect of it, or what are y'all doing on that part of the plan?
Yeah, part of the those final 30, 40, 50 days, again, we'll offer through social media and through interviews a lot of those reminders, safety reminders. Don't do this. This is, tips, if you will, on how to. We want people to come here and enjoy and have a great time. We want people to experience Arkansas, but certainly to understand what they're going to be facing. So yes, that will be part of the reminder not to do things like that, to always keep safety in mind, and again, to manage expectations. We're also hoping to explain that come here, and if you can, a lot of these towns in the line, Russellville, Mena, for example, they are planning on afternoon festivals and things that night to keep people here. So we're trying to also say, hey, come here, have a good time, but stay a little bit, to kind of spread it out.
Thank you.
Now I'll just go over real quick with you some recent department activities. Beginning the end of November through December, we went around to each of the 10 districts and to our maintenance division, our central offices, all those places, and we handed out safety awards, career service awards, honored our retirees, had lunch for the employees, gave a positive message, and just had that moment when we can go out. All of our 3,800, 3,700 employees have that FaceTime. The commissioners, you joined us y'all were represented at each one of these events, and we appreciated that. We love that time of year when we can get out and have FaceTime with our employees. On January 4th, Commissioner Holder, Rex, and I attended the Arkansas Asphalt Pavement Association Quality Conference. We won 3 pavement awards, which I'll go over in a minute, and we just talked about to that association what the great things that happened in 2023 and what we're looking forward to in 2024. The 3 awards that we received was one for perpetual pavement on Highway 24 by Performance there in Ouachita County. We won an award on a segment of I-40 in Pulaski County, and that was for the category by conversion. And then finally, we got an award for 530, Highway 530, for design, and that is in Lincoln County on a 2-lane new location segment, which is a connector, the I-530 connector. On January 24th, we went to Conway and we attended the Associated General Contractors of Arkansas Lunch and Learn. And we are always invited to present at their first Lunch and Learn of the year. And Chairman Farmer was able to be there, and we signed a partnering agreement with AGC to continue our efforts to collaborate and partner with our contracting industry. On February 6th, I spoke to the 29th Springdale Leadership Class. Just gave them an overview of the department, of the projects, how projects are selected, and just it was more of a classroom type situation. I enjoyed it thoroughly. They all knew Philip. I asked how many knows Philip Taldo. They all raised their hand. So, but it was a great event, very, very well received. And they didn't throw a rotten tomato at me when I mentioned your name. So anyway, no, it was a great event. I appreciated the opportunity to get out there and educate people on state government, in particular the Department of Transportation. So we started off we've had some great events, and I'm looking forward to more this year. One thing I did want to bring up is something we're pretty proud of. We've been doing a Lunch and Learn series since last year. And that's where we bring in speakers for lunchtime, our employees can come, bring their sack lunch, and listen to different speakers that we bring in. We just started one this January called The 5 Graces of Life and Leadership. Really excited about that. We've already done one. It focused on gratitude, and we had one of our division heads give that. Then we have 4 more scheduled for the rest of this until the spring or till almost summer. Resilience, aspiration, courage, and empathy and grace. I just think these are just great opportunities, and we've had really good response from the employees that want to take some time, take their lunch break, and listen to different things about the department, as well as learn more about leadership and other things to make us better as a department. Yes, sir.
I just have, I missed something on this. Is this a in-person thing? Or
Yes.
is this, okay.
Yes, we sit up down here in the auditorium, and they sit at tables, eat their lunch, and listen to whatever speaker, whatever topic.
Thank you.
So next we have a vendor selection. The commission approved minute order 2023-55 in June of 2023, authorizing the department to engage the services of a qualified vendor to implement a traffic data management system. We received requests. We issued a request for proposals. We received 4 proposals. After our evaluation team evaluated these proposals, we are recommending Drakewell Incorporated of Delaware to provide this service for us. They had an excellent response to the scope of work, experienced, qualified staff. Their in-person interview was done very, very well, and they clearly communicated the flexibility of this platform that will help us with our managing our data across the state. Based on this recommendation, I would ask for a motion to allow us to begin negotiations with Drakewell Incorporated of Dover, Delaware.
You hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved.
Okay, for our Around the Department, I've asked Jared Wiley to come up and give you a presentation on highway weight restrictions and the process that goes into that.
Thank you, Director. I think most of us and most people we encounter throughout the state, they understand that we have several weight-restricted highway bridges, but throughout my time here, I'm always surprised at the amount of people who don't know that we have weight-restricted highways as well. So we wanted to take a few minutes just to talk about that lesser-known process that the department employs to evaluate the condition of our highways. As of October 1st in 2023, we had about 1,200 miles of weight-restricted highways in the state. You can see those highways here on the map on the screen. By and large, these are all 2-lane rural roads that carry typically lower volumes of traffic. Highway weight restrictions are sometimes enacted to help us maintain normal service life and a state of good repair for our system. So a few examples of weight restricted highways. Starting top left, we have Highway 13 in White County, have Highway 156 in Washington County, bottom row, Highway 13 in Lone Oak County, and then in Clark County, we have Highway 182. These restrictions, again, they do occur throughout the state. So to effectively and accurately determine the structural condition of a highway, we need data, and we need a lot of data. Our staff in the System Information and Research Division, they do a great job collecting, validating, analyzing, and processing this data. We have 4 of them with us today. Thank y'all for being here today. So Sarah Tamayo is here. She leads that effort to help us get this done. So, and actually, this is the area I started in the department, so it's near and dear to my heart. To accurately determine the condition of a pavement, we have to know how much traffic is on that section of roadway, how thick each of the layers is out there, so how much asphalt, how much base, and how strong is each layer of material there on the highway. So to determine the traffic makeup and the layer thickness, those operations are fairly straightforward, but the strength determination is a little more complex. So to use To determine the pavement and base thicknesses, we use a piece of equipment called the ground penetrating radar. So in this equipment, our operator, Matt Owen, back in the back, he drives the equipment at highway speeds, and it bounces a radio frequency out of that orange bumper device on the bumper that you see on the screen, collects the rebound, and it creates a trace for us. So on the screen, you'll see a line with yellow dots. That line is going to represent the interface between the asphalt pavement and the base layer it sits on. The red line represents the interface between the granular base, the rocks that the road's sitting on, and the dirt underneath, or the subgrade as we call it here. We use this data as an input to measure the strength of a highway. The GPR, I want to make one more comment about that. The use of this equipment has really allowed us to expedite the collection of data, and it's provided improved safety. We don't have to shut a road down now and get out there and cut cores. Every time we want to know what's out there, we can simply get in the truck and drive. So it's been a great safety improvement for us as well. All right, the next input we need, like I mentioned, is traffic data. We have to obtain traffic data so we know how much weight and load is on that piece of highway. Another thing that surprises people around the department, we collect 12,000 data points around the state each year. So we collect traffic data, and we collect a lot of it. It's used internally and externally. Internally, we use this data to plan projects, to design pavements, and externally, we have a lot of interest from realtors, investors, and the general public alike. They like to see how much traffic is driving by their business or their home. This data is available 24 hours a day on our website through maps like the one you see on the screen, or through an interactive map that gives you a historic value of traffic over the last 20 years and includes the percentage of trucks. So on the screen you'll see one of our data collection technicians installing a traffic counter there, running that pneumatic tube across the roadway. All right, so the final piece of data we need to evaluate the structure of a pavement is collected using what we call a falling weight deflectometer. So Mr. Jackson Haney in the back, he runs our FWD for us, and he covers a lot of miles for sure. And so this piece of equipment takes a reading every 1,000 feet. So he'll pull up in that machine you see on the left, put it in park. From the driver's seat, he pushes a button, initiates the test sequence. The hydraulic foot lowers, and then the hydraulics then lift all those weights you see on the left-hand side of your screen. They lift them up, drop them from a specified height, and then we measure the deflection of the pavement when that weight hits the pavement. On the right, you'll see some little triangular shaped cones that contact the pavement there. Those are where the sensors live. We measure that deflection with seismometers, very similar to what we use to measure earthquakes. So it measures in mils and thousandths of an inch how much that pavement deflects. Fits a curve to it. That data is brought back into the office, and Seth Louvier, our engineer in the office, he takes the traffic data, the thickness data, and the deflection data here and runs it through a program to analyze that pavement structure. So what you see on the screen is a visual from the program that we use. Again, he takes those 1,000-foot intervals and determines how strong the pavement is at each of those sections. If we find out that, hey, this pavement, is just not adequate to handle highway traffic, we have, as I see it, 3 choices. We can do nothing, which would allow the road to continue to deteriorate and go downhill. We can add additional structure or reconstruct the highway if we have the funding and budget available. Or we sometimes can place a weight restriction on the route to prevent further decay and deterioration. Conversely, when the results of the test tell us, hey, your structure's good, we like to see that, and we can start to remove weight restrictions. And that's where I want to go next. So one of the goals stated by the department as we were out in the public talking about the Renew Arkansas Highways program was to tackle weight-restricted bridges throughout the state. That's a goal. We're working on it and working hard to do that. But we've also developed a program to try to tackle those weight-restricted highways as well. So the crew in the back that I mentioned again, they have been working hard over the last year to do just that. And I'm happy to report that, you know, combined with the additional expense that Kelly and Commissioner Holder mentioned earlier, the $300 million we put towards payments a year, and with the diligent work of our maintenance forces, we're able to remove, through the analysis, 250 miles of restrictions from our highway system. So we think this is a big deal. It represents a big change and a good chance for more economic growth in these regions. So the map on the screen shows the routes in green that we have removed restrictions on through this process. Again, there's no doubt that additional preservation funding that we're dedicating through the Renew Arkansas Highways program will allow us to continue to make strides and remove more weight restrictions in the future. So with the removal of this mileage, we're down to 970 miles of restricted highways in the state now. As I close, I want to mention that this information is always available on iDriveArkansas.com. Not only does it show you which routes are restricted, it shows the bridges that are restricted, and it shows the operator what the weight limit is by color, as you see on the bottom left of the screen there. So I'll close and open to questions if you have any. Yes, sir.
I can't pass up an opportunity to ask a question.
Let's do it.
So, do we just have one of these test units, these vehicles that travels the whole state, or do we have 5 or 6 of them around the state that gather the data?
Yes, sir. So we have 2 falling weight deflectometers, and they're centrally located here in Little Rock, and we deploy our staff to those locations where we need to run the test. A lot of these folks are on constant statewide travel, so they are on the road a lot. The ground penetrating radar, we have 1 of those. These pieces of equipment, as you imagine, are relatively expensive, and so we try to make the best of them. Our FWD that we're using now is a 2007 model. You guys approved the purchase of a new one recently, so we're going to be working to get another one and phase out our old one and bring in the new one.
Thank you.
Jared, what different levels of weight restriction do we have?
So they range from 40,000 pounds, which is an extreme restriction, to 73,280 pounds.
Each one of those levels, what type of vehicle are those levels affecting? Let's start with the lowest. Is 40,000 the
Yes, sir.
lowest? And
Yes, sir.
what vehicles would be prohibited other than 18-wheelers? But would there be other vehicles limited? Farm vehicles? Describe some vehicles that would be
Sure.
limited under that lowest.
Certainly most of your big trucks are limited with 40,000 or even 46, 48,000 pound loads. You can't carry much weight on a truck like that without being over that weight limit. As you jump up to 64, we start seeing that impact laden trucks, log trucks, things like that. We had a big push back in the Fayetteville shale boom when we were, developing wells in north central Arkansas. And so we saw considerable impacts there, which caused the commission to adopt a process that we could write permits on those restricted roads for an additional fee. So, even though these roads are restricted, we do allow access to them in certain cases by permit. These same crew, they run a process and they'll charge based on the additional damage we expect that road to receive. The 73,280, that was the previous weight limit. So back in 1982, federal government raised the weight limit from 73,280 to 80,000 pounds. And back then there was a concern that some of these highways couldn't handle that additional weight, so they were restricted at that time.
Do we have any weight-restricted roads currently that are hampering the ability of farmers to get their crops to market that we're dealing with?
We believe so, and we actually talked with some of our partners in industry. We met with with Riceland at the Good Roads meeting this year, or last year, and we heard from them which roads were really impacting their operations. So we began to look at those as well. So yes, we hear that, and we're trying to take care of those. Yes, sir.
Jared, that team you mentioned is normally not here for our meetings, so I'd love if they could stand and be recognized. Appreciate the work they're doing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Okay, now we came to what we do the first meeting of every year is look in our rear view mirror at 2023. It's easy for me to say, and look ahead to 2024. So our communications team, in looking behind and looking where we came from this last year, has put together this really cool video, which I'll play for you now.
No matter the event, the project, the work, at RDOT, it always comes back to the people. Employees who understand we must get the job done and do it the best way possible. It was no different in 2023. Whether it was snow and ice removal, inspecting a bridge, or responding on a terrible Friday afternoon.
Traffic is getting by, but just, wow, it's just a lot of destruction.
RDOT was there. We pushed through the February cold and that extreme summer heat to turn dirt and cut many ribbons, celebrating the start and end of dozens of projects across the state. We paid tribute to an old friend.
This will go down as a great day in our family.
And honored another.
I'm honored, I'm humbled beyond belief, and I'm very, very personally grateful.
And in 2023, we closed out the Connecting Arkansas program. 31 promises made in 2012 and 31 promises kept.
10 years ago, they put their trust in RDOT. We can say we were successful, and that means a lot, and it's a very proud moment for me as director.
The year started with a big leadership change. We said goodbye to one chairman. A new chairman came on board.
Let the record reflect that by a unanimous vote, Alec Farmer is elected next chairman of the Arkansas Highway Commission.
And a new commissioner was sworn in.
I, David Hay, do solemnly swear.
We said goodbye to our chief operating officer and good friend, Randy Ort. A new reorganization for RDOT itself, all in the name of serving the citizens better. In 2023, there were $1.4 billion worth of highway and bridge work out for bid. $42 million received for congressionally designated community project funding. A $25 million grant to improve a busy highway in Saline County. And thanks to the voters of Arkansas, July 1st marked the beginning of an additional stable source of revenue from a half-cent sales tax measure. A vote of confidence by the people, which will allow RDOT to maintain our roads better than ever. We did all this in 2023 and kept the public informed through all means possible, especially social media across multiple platforms.
We're in Crossit, Arkansas this morning following the journey of a 300-ton kiln from Crossit up to Gum Springs, Arkansas.
We saw the continuation of our work zone safety campaign, Slow Down, Phone Down. We started using speed enforcement cameras in work zones to make them safer, thanks to the 2023 General Assembly. We unveiled our first managed lane system on a busy interstate bridge. And most importantly, we focused our attention on safety by purchasing more road equipment and by adopting more measures aimed at keeping our employees out of potential danger. And in 2023, we created a way for the public to better reach us. It's called Ask RDOT. Serving the citizens of Arkansas is a top priority for RDOT. Our intention with Ask RDOT is to make your customer service experience easy, thorough, and timely. We're here for you. All these achievements, all these steps taken under a new message, a new plan for RDOT in 2023. We are full steam ahead. We welcome what 2024 might bring. We know we are ready because we are RDOT.
Our communications team did a great job with that, so we appreciate it. In 2023, we awarded $1.4 billion worth of work, 267 projects. The top 10 projects include the Springdale Bypass, the leg between Highway 412 West to Highway 112, Highway 67, from Highway 5 to Highway 89, widening in there in Cabot. We did some improvements to I-55, Highway 181 to Highway 158, just to name a few, and the Greenwood Bypass, which was a huge project for that area. Some major projects we expect to be completed in 2024 include the I-55 improvements from Highway 148 to south of Highway 61 in Mississippi County. I-49, the interchange improvements with 16 and 112. I-40 in Faulkner and Pulaski County, Conway to North Little Rock, we expect that to be complete. And then Highway 71 in Polk and Scott County, some overlay work on Highway 71. Our 2024 our 2024 funding program, we have about $1.4 billion worth of work to be let to contract this coming year. That's about 195 state jobs. The 10 largest projects we have coming up are Interstate 49 in Crawford and Sebastian counties, that first segment from Highway 22 to Gun Club Road, which will include a new bridge over the Arkansas River. That's future Interstate 49. We're going to start the construction of our future Interstate 57 with a Corning bypass. And then 71B in Benton County from Dixieland Road to 8th Street in Rogers. We'll be widening that section. Looking ahead to 2024, we're going to be activating our state-of-the-art wrong way crash detection system. We used the last 5 years of wrong way crash studies to determine the largest problem areas and decided to start there. The first systems are expected to be activated around April 1st of this year and be on I-430. We recently entered the third year of our Slow Down, Phone Down safety campaign. This year we're focusing on the age group of 18 to 24-year-olds, college kids, because they have the most incidents of distracted driving. And with that, I'm going to ask Parker and Ellen, they're going to come up and talk about that.
Thank you, Director. As the Director said, we're days away from starting our third year of the campaign, Slow Down, Phone Down. We are very, very satisfied with the progress of the campaign. We knew that just getting word out, awareness overall, was going to be key to getting people to remember that slow down, phone down in their head so that it just stays in there every time they're in that construction zone. Just a quick little background. The whole idea behind Slow Down, Phone Down started in the summer of 21. We were in a meeting, the Director and myself and a few others from RDOT with Good Roads Foundation, and quite honestly, we were brainstorming on initiatives that we needed to take on in the coming year, and one of the concerns we had was the high number of work zone crashes, not only in Arkansas but nationwide, and we knew we had to get something done. So the discussion started at that point. The Director looked at me and said, let's make this priority, and so we did. We started meeting the communications team and kicked around some ideas and created a name, and We knew with that large-scale campaign and the attention that it needed, it was going to require a large bit of funding outside the department, and that's where Ellen takes up the conversation.
So on that previous slide, you can see that we got $626,000 in grant funding for this year of the campaign. It'll be 2024 to 2025, and that entirely is from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So we have to thank them for that. This campaign would not be here without that. So that funding comes from them, which we call NHTSA, and the Arkansas Highway Safety Office administers that funding. So what they do is they analyze Arkansas crash data every year, and they come up with priorities that they think are most necessary for this grant funding to go to. So as you can see on this graph, in 2021 was a really bad year. It was just an unfortunate year for injuries, fatalities, and crashes in all of the categories. So they agreed that work zone safety needed to be a top priority for that year, and we had already been thinking that. So we applied for NHTSA grant funding for this Slow Down, Phone Down campaign, and they awarded it to us, and so that's how it all began. So we launched it to the public on February 2nd of 2022, and on February 2nd of 2024, we just entered our third year of the campaign. So we've been lucky that they have continued supporting this campaign for now 3 years. So onto this data, I just want to explain it a little bit. The biggest takeaway from this data is that our numbers are going down. So 2021, really bad year. We started the campaign in early 2022, and our numbers have gradually gone down ever since then. So if there's one thing that you glean from looking at this, please know that our efforts seem to be working, and our numbers are going down, and our work zones are getting safer. Our work is not done. We know, I mean, one injury, one fatality is one too many, so we're going to continue with this, but I'm happy to report that our numbers are going down. And so you might think, well, they're still not as good as they were in 2018, 2019, 2020. And there's a small caveat to that data that I kind of want to explain because it's kind of interesting. So it looks like our numbers are not where they were before 2021, but there is a chance that they're actually slightly better than those years, and here's why. So we get our data from a database called eCrash, and it's used by all law enforcement agencies in the state, and in 2021, we had a large number of agencies that began using eCrash. So we granted nearly $4 million to local agencies to purchase equipment to start using eCrash in 2021. So those numbers in 2021 look really high, and it was a bad year, but it really was just getting more accurate in our reporting. So it's possible that in 2018, 2019, 2020, those numbers could have been a lot higher in those years, and we just don't know because they weren't being reported. So again, biggest takeaway is that as of 2021, when the reporting became a lot more accurate, our numbers have gone down since that year. So really proud to report that. And now on to this year's campaign. So as the director mentioned, our target audience is the 18 to 24 age demographic. So we have 3 new commercials that we just had made, and nobody has seen them yet. They're not airing anywhere yet. So this is a debut for these commercials, and I want you to view them through the lens of a Gen Zer because that's who this campaign is targeted toward. So if they don't quite resonate with you, that's okay, because they're not really geared toward anyone in this room, I don't think. Not me either. I'm not a Gen Zer either. So. And with this campaign, we're meeting that age group where they are. So that's social media, it's streaming platforms, it's gaming platforms. So you also won't see these commercials on your traditional 5 o'clock news or on the radio or things like that. So anyway, we can play the commercials now.
Distracted driving is dangerous. Slow down, phone down. It's the law. In a work zone, it's not a game. Slow down, phone down.
Protect road workers like family.
Grandma?
Slow down, phone down in work zones. It's the law.
Thank you.
That's great. But before you step down, I just want my arithmetic is not great, but from 2021 to last year, looks like we did have a 40% drop in both fatalities and crashes. So that's fantastic work. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the new campaign.
Okay, moving on quickly to upcoming events. Got some significant events coming up. The Arkansas Lithium Innovation Summit is this Friday, which I'll be moderating a panel on that. We have a Leadership Arkansas Class 18. Jared's going to be leading that class, and the commissioners will be at that event. We have the Arkansas Governor's Conference on Tourism. I'll be on a panel to talk about the solar eclipse preparations. February 29th, me and Gil got invited to go eat breakfast on the Union Pacific Railroad breakfast car, so I'm looking forward to that. Fort Smith Chamber, first Friday breakfast with Commissioner Gibson, followed by a Greenwood bypass groundbreaking the same day. The Eclipse press conference will be here at the department on March 4th. I've been asked to speak at the Baldwin and Shell Women's Luncheon. ACEC Engineering Excellence Awards will be at that to celebrate some awards that we've received. PE board meeting, and then the final is the Southeast Pavement Preservation Partnership Conference. And then April 3rd will be your next meeting. So with that, we'll go to other business and discussion, and I'll turn it back over to Chairman Farm.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Since Dave Parker's already read the amendment order, I'll just ask that Director Tudor and her staff provide some background and update us on this project on item 12, the notice to default. Given that injunctive action was filed by Johnson Brothers against the commission and RDOT yesterday, I'll ask that any questions from the commission stick to the information provided in today's presentation. And with that, I'll turn it over to you again, Director.
Okay, I'm going to ask our Chief Legal Counsel, Michelle Davenport, to come up and give a presentation of just the facts surrounding the project.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. The information concerning this project, we are discussing Interstate 30 Widening Project. You'll hear it referred to by the department as CAO 601. And this was part of the Connecting Arkansas program. We have a program manager of Garver, and we also had construction inspectors on this job through Jacobs Engineering. This project, as you'll see, stretches through a portion of Saline County. You can see on the map from Highway 70 to approximately South Street in Benton. We do have multiple bridges in this area, including the Saline River Bridge and the Saline River Relief Bridge. This section of highway accommodates approximately 82,000 vehicles, 24% of which are trucks and large 18-wheeler capacity. This is going to widen I-30 to 6 lanes utilizing a PCC pavement, and it is approximately from log mile 110 to log mile 116. Some factors that I think that are important for the Commission to understand and to know about this particular contract is that this is a design bid build contract utilizing a specific kind of contracting mechanism called an A+C method, or a calendar day contract method. And what this is that when we are evaluating the bid on that particular contract, it evaluates both the contractor's bid price as well as the number of days in which the contractor is going to complete the work on the contract. Both of those factors are together what determines who is awarded the bid in this matter. The risk and complexity when it comes to this type of project is really at the contractor's decision. Their bid should consider both the project risk, complexity, and how the project's design is in place. Those decisions are the contractors. Since 1993, the standard practice of the department is, and under our specifications, that the means and methods of how those contractors are going to accomplish the work in that contract is on the contractor. That is their decision, their responsibility. The work product is what is evaluated by the department in how we approve those plans. They should consider how they're going to complete that scope of work within the time and days that they have bid, as well as their contract amount. The RDOT specifications very clearly state that the submission of a bid shall be considered prima facie evidence that the bidder has made such an examination and is satisfied as to the conditions to be encountered in performing the work and to the requirements of the plans, specifications, any supplemental specifications, special provisions, and the general terms of the contract. One further item that's important to remember, as this particular job does utilize federal funds, projects that use federal funds are required to be awarded on the basis of the lowest responsive bid submitted. And you can find that particular requirement at 23 CFR 635-114. So let's talk a little bit more about this specific project. This letting occurred in December of 2018. It, again, uses that calendar method we just discussed, which is A+C. A+C is important in this particular case especially because the C component of that is the amount of road user cost per day that has been calculated by the department to establish how much it's costing our traveling public per day that job is under construction. That is a formula that is clearly defined in the contract and is part of the contractor's bid when they address this particular contract. In addition, liquidated damages are agreed to by both the contractor and the department at the outset of the contract. In this case, they were assigned at $750 a day to cover any additional damages or actual costs of the department for having our staff administer that contract past the number of days that have been bid on the project by the contractor. In this case, the contract was awarded to Johnson Brothers Corporation, a Southland company, in the amount of $1,807,000. I'm going to let you read that. I'm a lawyer. I don't do numbers very well, so I'm just going to let the state for itself. The number of days bid on this project, however, was 1,290 days to construct the project. One thing I do want to point out is these bids are reviewed by the department prior to them being awarded. And in this case, the amount and the days bid by Johnson Brothers Corporation in this case was consistent with the amounts that were estimated by the department, as well as reviewed by our CAP manager, Garver, to determine if they were doable and efficient numbers, and they did meet all the estimates predicted by the department. Another factor, if you would like, we've included the contract pages for your reference, commissioners, as to where you can find each of those specific specifications so you can familiarize yourself with those contract terms. Where are we with project financials on this particular situation today? The contract bid amount, we've had about $3 million in change orders that have been approved by the department on this matter. So we are at, again, I'm going to use round numbers, $190 million. Where this has become a matter of contention, and as the commissioner has stated, we have been served with, or not served, but there has been a lawsuit initiated for a temporary restraining order in this matter, but we've also been under a claims commission appeal under the contract provisions with the Arkansas Claims Commission since approximately last June. And that is going to come in, I'm going to explain that in just a moment, but I wanted to give you that background on where we are. So the total amount paid to Johnson Brothers at this time, you will see that here, a little over $127 million. The difference with the amount earned of $147 million. And how did we get here and why are we here? Liquidated damages amount to the total of $217,500. based on that $750 a day additional cost that's agreed to in the department, in the contract with Johnson Brothers. Road user costs, the amount of $77,000, are part of the contract provision of the A+C bid. If the contract had been completed earlier than 90 days prior to the completion of the contract, the contractor would have received that $77,000 a day in money back on the contract for the early completion of the job. The same provision applies for each day after the job, after the number of days bid, and any additional days granted by the department. Those monies are assessed on that contract amount. That is why you will see here approximately $22 million in road user costs that have been held by the department as a part of that contract provision. We are at approximately 76.9% of the total financial project completion. That does not reflect the amount of work that is needed to complete the job to substantial completion. That's a much harder number to estimate given the construction process in general, but we do know how much of the contract amount has been paid out and calculated on the invoices. Right now, there is a current negative amount on the contract, meaning that there's approximately $2 million in road user costs that have not been, work has not been performed that equals that amount. So under that calculation, the department would be owed approximately $2 million from the company in road user costs that have not been realized with equal work. Let's see. The original, I think we can go to the next particular slide, shows you a little bit more of the project timeline and where we are. The total calendar days bid that began with the May 7th, 2019 start date was 1,290 days. The department has awarded an additional 155 days by change order, and the change order process, as you're aware, is the method in which the specifications allow a contractor to say, department, we believe there's been an extenuating circumstance that would add calendar days to our contract. That process has been followed by the department. They have granted 155 of those additional calendar days to the contract, bringing the adjusted contract time to April 20th of 2023. That is the I mentioned a moment ago about the Claims Commission. That is the contention of Johnson Brothers, is that they are entitled to more calendar days be added to the contract. The department has answered in that Claims Commission case and has denied and believes that we are not Johnson Brothers is not entitled to those additional 490 days that they have claimed under the Claims Commission action. Right now, we are 290 days over the contract time, including the days granted by the department, and that equals approximately 120% additional time on the contract. There is one of the provisions that we haven't talked about in this is that the contractor submits an initial schedule to the department, and that's what's reviewed concerning the progress of the work and how that work is going to be accomplished. There are subsequent recovery schedules that then a contractor can submit to the department and is required to under certain specifications to allow us to know how the project is proceeding. The submission of those recovery schedules does not waive the Commission's right to require the contract to be completed as it's stated in the contract and on the terms that the contractor provided in their bid and in their submission. We are having there's another recovery schedule in progress. We do not have a final date on that. The latest recovery schedule or schedule update by the contractors provided has taken this job to a substantial completion date of January 16th of 2025. And the matter before you today is the chief engineer has determined and sent a letter pursuant to specification 108.08 that deals with how we proceed if we have a recommendation for default. And that's how this matter is before you today. At this time, the chief engineer has sent a notice to both the surety and Johnson Brothers that we believe that this particular project will be recommended for default to the commission. And the minute order that was placed on hold today to the end of this portion of the meeting is to allow the chief engineer to continue with that process, and after an opportunity for the contractor to submit a response to our notice to recommend default to the department, usually within 10 days. The specification requires 10 calendar days to provide that information back to the commission, and then to proceed with engaging with the surety to, if default is recommended at that point, to engage with the surety to come up with the contract provisions and how we're going to progress that project to completion.
Excellent job of explaining this. There's a couple of questions that I have. You say the most recent scheduled completion date was April 20th of last year. And so...
Yes, that's correct. That was the contract days.
Right. That's after we added the 155 days.
That's correct, sir.
So from that day until today, what has RDOT done to work through this project's delays since Johnson Brothers missed their last scheduled completion date on April 20th of last year?
Yes, sir. There have been ongoing executive level meetings that have included both the surety, Commissioner Holder, members of the legislature, and the executive team from RDOT, as well as Johnson Brothers, to try to determine why those project delays continue to occur, and in an attempt to move the project forward under the existing contract.
Okay, and obviously that didn't create much success since the chief engineer recommended default. As to the process of default, so there's a 10-day notice period. So at the end of the 10-day, or the required 10-day notice period before a project can be defaulted, will Johnson Brothers have an opportunity to provide a potential remedy to RDOT and to avoid more delays and complete this project?
Yes, sir. That is the purpose and the intent of the 10-day notice, is to say the department has taken this very seriously. The chief engineer is recommending this process moving forward. As a part of that process, Johnson Brothers is invited to provide their response to that potential notice and any plan that they have to remedy the matters that have been set forth in that letter. And then the chief engineer has the option to review that information and then make a subsequent recommendation to maintain the recommendation for calling the surety and requiring the performance bond be executed, or if there's a sufficient method to move forward to get the project completed.
Okay. And so the 10-day period, we sent a letter last Friday, but there was some confusion as to exactly what the demand was. So a follow-up letter was sent yesterday, and so that's the beginning of the 10-day notice period. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. If Johnson Brothers responds and proposes a possible remedy, is it the process that RDOT staff would then review the proposal and make a recommendation to the commission as to whether to proceed with default or not?
That's correct. And you would have the option at the commissioner or the chair's request to schedule another meeting. I know that it was important that the commission hear all of the information as well as the public in our regularly scheduled public meeting, and not being held as a special meeting outside. But yes, a special meeting could be called and does not have to wait till the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay. Obviously, this project is drug on much longer than any of us had hoped or anticipated. So depending on when the notice default was received, to start the 10-day notice clock ticking, which we said is yesterday, are we looking at having a recommendation from staff to the commission on whether to proceed to default sometime during the first week of March? Is that fair to say?
That is, and we do want to keep in mind that there is a pending action in this matter. There may be additional delays that are a result of any actions taken by the court at that time.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have one. The action before the commission, before the claims commission?
Yes, sir.
When do you expect a rule? How does that process work? When do you expect a ruling there?
What I'm seeing in other claim matters, not necessarily in this one, this claim was filed in last June. Discovery has not been significantly ongoing at this time. Most of those claims commission hearings, even in some of the smaller claims that we have, I'm seeing at least a year to 2 years of movement out before we have a full hearing before the claims commission.
Why is that?
Timing on behalf of both the commission and their scheduled amount of claims that they hear at the time, as well as the parties' opportunity to do discovery. Claims Commission proceedings proceed very similar to normal court proceedings, and you have periods of 30 days in which to respond to different portions of that, as well as taking depositions and the fact-finding portions of that. So depending on the process and how that is scheduled, that greatly depends on when we can get onto the Commission's calendar for a full hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions? I'm going to, unless a commissioner has an objection, I'm going to suggest that we take no action at this minute order at this time, because we're in the middle of that 10-day notice process. So it'd be a little premature for us to take action at this time. But at such time, after the 10-day notice period has lapsed and RDOT staff has had time to review a proposed remedy from Johnson Brothers, and the staff is prepared to make a recommendation to the commission on how or if to proceed to default, a special meeting of the Arkansas State Highway Commission will be called for the purpose to take action on the staff's recommendation, which we're thinking will be sometime the first week of March or thereabout. Does any commissioner have an objection to doing that? Okay, if there's not, I have one final comment to make on this subject. The Arkansas State Highway Commission and the Arkansas Department of Transportation are committed to getting this project completed as quickly as possible, regardless of whether it's with the current contractor or a new one. 5 years is too long for this project to last. So I just want to make that clear. We're going to get this resolved as quickly as we can for the public. It's time. So with that, I have no other comments on that issue. Does anybody else have any other comments or any questions? I'll just say on a lighter note and a more positive note, we put the first 100 years of the Highway Department behind us last year with a big successful year, and it looks like we're starting the next 100 years this year on the same foot with a lot of things to look forward to. So congratulations to Lori and the staff. You're doing a great job. You make my job very easy, so thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. All right. Second? I hear. We're adjourned.